So these are the notes over converting between decimals and fractions or mixed numbers. So this is the bottom left half of that same foldable, and then the red is the fill in the blank. So go ahead and catch up on that, pause the video, and then when you're ready, turn it back on and I'll go over the math examples. So over here we have the example of, well, there's one way and then there's another way. So the way that I always like to use is just to divide the numerator by the denominator. And again, this is turning fractions into decimals. So if you have the fraction 1 over 20, we now know that that would be expressed as 1 divided by 20, which means 1 goes inside of the doghouse and 20 is on the outside. And so then you have to divide it. Well, 20 cannot go into 1, so you would just have to put a 0. And then this is where you start putting the decimal and then adding zeros. Well, 20 can't go into 10 either. Bring up your decimal, add another 0. And then add one more inside here. Now 20 into 100 is 5. So your answer for 1/20th as a decimal would be 0.05. Right here, we're going to do the other way now, the first way. So if we have the fraction 1 over 20, and we need to make this into an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. So let's see. We always taught it as 100 being like the magic number. So if we put 100 as our new denominator, whoops, over here, what do you have to multiply 20 by to get it to be 100? And the answer is 5. So now we have 20 times 5 gives you 100, but what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So now you have 1 times 5, and that is 5. And since it's over 100, our answer would be 0.05. And the reason why it's not just 0.5 is because it's not 50 over 100. It's just 5, which would be represented as 0.05. So right here we have the example 13 over 20. And then if we want to do it this way over here where we make it into an equivalent fraction, you should see that 20 goes into 100. We just did it over here. So 20 times 5 is 100. 13 times 5 would be 65. So your answer for turning 13 over 20 into a decimal would be 0.65. Okay, over here we have 0.08, and the 08 is in the hundredths place. The 8 is the underlined part because it goes tenths, hundredths. So in this case, we're actually taking a sneak peek into turning a decimal into a fraction. So if I have the decimal 0.08, since 8 is in the hundredths, I would take 8 and put it over 100. And then if I wanted to simplify that, because that's not in simplest form, the GCF of 8 and 100 is 4. So if you divided both, it would become 2/25. And again, this last example isn't like what the other ones were. It's taking a decimal and turning it into a fraction. Make sure you have this copied down, and then the next video will be the last half or the last section of the same foldable.